Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is all about someone who went from designing experiments in a nuclear physics lab to writing historical fiction novels and danced with her dogs along the way. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach and Midlife Mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again for this week's episode, which is about an interesting journey to retirement happiness and is about dog dancing through life and reimagining retirement as a writer with Joyce A. Miller. And yes, there's an interesting nuclear physics laboratory piece of the story too. So if you're someone who's starting to think about retirement, this show is for you. If you're someone who would love to be clear about your passion in life, this show's for you. And if you're someone who's curious about dog dancing and or becoming a writer, this show is also for you. And one more thing, if you're someone who's looking to reimagine retirement options that don't look like your parents' retirement or even the way retirement looked on 70s and 80s sitcoms, this show is for you. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, you are right. It is. But just quick, I want to let you know that the Women in the Middle Academy group coaching program is open for enrollment. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, like you know you're meant for more, but you just can't figure out what to do or how to get there, the Academy may be a great fit. Working together can help you go from wasting valuable time and worrying about having regrets to feeling happier and fulfilled by regret-proofing your life. Just imagine what it actually feels like to be excited about what's to come. It's all possible with mindset coaching, using creative tools, joyful planning, a bit of confidence and courage in a supportive community of like-minded midlife gals. That's how we roll. So you won't believe what it feels like to be on the other side of stuck. Head over to www.talktosusie.com and book your free momentum call, and we'll see if joining us in the Women in the Middle Academy is a good fit for you. Can't wait to see your name in my calendar. Okay, now let's dive in. Today's episode is all about dog dancing through life and reimagining retirement as a writer with Joyce A. Miller. Joyce is a writer living in Richmond, Virginia. Before she started writing, she worked for over 30 years as a mechanical designer at a nuclear physics laboratory. Yes, you heard me correctly. And today's interview is about her journey to a fulfilled retirement experience. Now, Joyce has written and indie published 2 books. The first is called Joe Harris, the Moon, and it's historical fiction based on the true story of Miller's grand uncle who played baseball in the 1910s and the 1920s. The second is Look, You're Dancing, a memoir of dogs, dance, and devotion. It's a memoir of Miller's adoption journey of 6 greyhounds over the past 20 years and how she danced with several of them. Joyce is also a member of James River Writers. Now, I have to say, this is a really fun and interesting interview about quite a creative approach to retirement and retirement planning. So please enjoy. Hi, Joyce. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as you know, I'm super excited about this whole topic of pre-retirement and retirement and reimagination and just really re-examining what's possible for you. So when your application came in, I thought, oh, this one's going to be interesting. I'm very happy to have the chance to talk to you. So let's start a little bit by talking about what was going on in your 40s, and then we'll just lead into when you started to think about making a change.
So in my 40s, I was working as a mechanical designer in a nuclear physics laboratory.
Oh, just like all your friends. That's such a common job.
I'm sure everyone has done that at one point or another. So I designed experiments. So we had in Newport News, Virginia, the laboratory is called Jefferson Lab, and it is one of the only facilities in the world where people can do the kind of physics that they do there. And it's basic research. And a lot of people come from, we have friends from all over the world who come there to do their experiments, and they would have to work with me and my team on how to get their experiments into the facility. So it was a very interesting job. Met a lot of people, a lot of lifelong friends. So I was, in my 40s, had two children that were adults by then and went off to college. And so I was interested in doing some other things to keep me busy when my kids were gone. And so I did Greyhound rescue and
Ooh.
trained two of the Greyhounds to uh, do a dog sport called canine freestyle or dog dancing.
Oh my gosh. So this was your empty nest entertainment.
That was my empty nest entertainment and also a relief from the physics. It was a very challenging job and just gave me something fun to do and to break that, brain stuff I had to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, your brain was on fire. And then this was a chance to do very different kind of work and also to give back. I mean, you're involved with
Yeah,
rescue, and that's like a whole thing just on itself without all the dancing.
yeah, and of course they don't always call it rescue. I guess we call it greyhound adoption.
Hmm.
So, there's a big discussion in the greyhound world about um, they just need to be retired and adopted out to homes after they're done racing. They do love racing. It's just, like everything else, there are good and bad people in every industry, and so sometimes the bad apples get more press than all the good ones who are out there, working with the dogs and training them and that kind of thing. So
Now, why
anyway,
were you attracted to the greyhounds?
so it started with the dog dancing. So I had a little lab mix that I started it with, but at the time, the AKC, the American Kennel Club, did not recognize mixed breeds for their dog sports, and so I was training this little mixed breed dog to do different things, fun things, and but I couldn't really do any competitions with her. And then she passed away, and I'm a big woman, and so I was started doing this dog dancing with her, and I thought I need kind of a bigger dog to work with me, and I thought that they looked such great physique, and they would just be such good looking dog dancers moving around the floor. So I looked into adopting one. And of course, at that time, which was way back when, I'm 65 now. So if you're talking about when I was in my 40s, they were euthanizing thousands of them after they were done racing.
Oh
And
my.
so I thought, okay, well, I can help out a dog and I can train it to do this, not even thinking how hard it would be to train a greyhound to do the things you needed to do the dog dancing.
Well, dog dancing is very different than running at the speed of sound.
Yes, it is. And
Is
so
that, did I make a right analogy? Speed of light? And maybe that should have been speed of light.
speed of light, yeah. Or
Well, I need,
speed of sound is good too, but
oh,
speed of
thank
light
you.
is more the accepted term.
Well, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to ask a physicist. Um, yeah, so that's really different. Now, had you been interested in, first of all, any kind of competition before
No,
and
no,
any kind of dance,
no,
any kind of performance sport?
no, no to all the questions.
You
But
know what? It's so interesting to me to hear you saying this. When I was a kid, we were involved in dog shows with St. Bernards.
okay,
And as a kid, I showed in the puppy class. St. Bernard's a big puppy, but
uh-huh.
um, I just remember the performance part of it, which is nothing like what you're talking about. It's just being judged and walking around and setting your dog up and this and that. And I was nervous. And then I had, I don't know, it's just interesting to me. This is so different than anything you've ever done. So, on the one hand, my eyebrows and my jaw are just like, wow. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, ooh, this is such good practice for reimagining what's possible when it comes to retirement.
Right, exactly. It's perfect. Yeah, and I had a different kind of a childhood. I had my mother owned a bar, and so we spent a lot of time at the bar helping out and that kind of thing. So I didn't have dance lessons. I didn't do music. I didn't. We went to school and then we went and helped at the bar. And so in a way, this was fulfilling something from that I guess I didn't get to do in my childhood, and nervous, very nervous about, like you said, being judged and going in the competition ring and that kind of thing. So then I decided I need to take a people dance class so that I can learn to be a better dog dancer. So I signed up for a tap dancing class when I turned 50.
I also did tap dancing in my 50s. So fun.
Never having taken a dance class ever.
Wow.
And I just fell in love with tap dancing too. Loved making the noise. I made some of my best friends now are from that dance class that I took when I turned 50.
Wow.
And
Were there any 5-year-olds in there with you, or was it an adult class?
it was an adult class, but we did put on a recital every year, and we did have our little number, which was funny, like you're saying, how women um, want to change when they hit that part in their life. And so when our class would come on the stage and do our little tap number, the women, the other mothers of the little kids were like, you go, like you guys are fantastic, and I would never get up there and do that. And
Oh
um,
my gosh.
but it did entice a number of them to come and try it with us, anyways. So
That's adorable. So you were role modeling,
trying
rocking midlife.
trying to rock midlife and just tell people, you just got to do it. Just try.
So you are definitely sounding like you're having a lot of fun. And then when did you start to think about the next phase of life, like ending this formal career?
Um, so, so again, the career was very challenging, and we had so my husband worked at the physics laboratory also, and that's where we met. And we had a number of experiments to design and install. Very, very challenging. Probably well, I won't say one of the most because all of it was challenging, but um, and at the end, it seemed like they were asking more than we could do, and
Hmm.
uh, and so another fortunate thing was that we belonged to a retirement program that was part of the lab, but also part of the university system in the US. So we had been, putting money into it from the time we started working. And so one day we went to our retirement advisor and asked her, when do you think we can retire? And my husband's 6 years older than me. And so at that time I was 60, and she said, you can retire whenever you want. She said, you're okay. And as far well, from what we can tell from looking at your numbers, you can retire whenever you want. And so,
Wow. What was that like for you to hear?
oh, it was just like weight lifted off my shoulders. Like it
Were you
was,
thinking you were going to have to continue to work?
yes.
Ah,
And I also thought that she would say that my husband could retire, but I couldn't
Mm,
because he was older than me. And I also thought that I toyed with the thought of remaining at the lab even though he was gone. But again, I worked in a man's field, and because my husband worked there and I worked there, and we did very similar jobs, I knew what money he made and what money I made, which was 80% of what he made. And
oh,
and so I went back to our management and I said, you know, I would stay if you would give me his job and his money. And they said, "Oh, well, we can't do that." And I said, "Well, okay then. I guess I'm not going to stay." And I knew then that I didn't have to stay, and so um which it would have been really hard to stay after knowing I could leave and also knowing what was coming with
right.
these experiments that we were trying to get ready to run. So,
Do you think that if you would have been 40 and you knew what was coming, the difficulty of your work,
mhm.
do you think you would have considered other options, or it just would have been part of what you do?
I think I would have considered other options. I also look back on it and wish that I had a mentor
Mm.
or a coach at that time that would have told me, that you need to do this or you need to go on this. Because I just kind of went on automatic and
Hmm.
I was good at my job and and they relied on me very heavily. And I just kind of, I worked hard. I went in every day, worked hard, and, was again satisfactorily rewarded for it. I mean,
Yeah,
I made good money. I had good benefits and vacation and things like that. Love the people that I
yeah.
worked with. But
I guess what I'm hearing though is that yeah, things look good on paper. You're a hard worker, bee,
yeah,
and your husband was there, and you met the great people, and everything was going along tickety boo. And then what happens to so many of us is that autopilot functioning, where you're just not pausing to think, well, am I having fun?
yeah.
Am I satisfied that I won't be trying anything new until this phase is over? Like, is it all about retirement to have the opportunity to change? We just don't think, like, we're so disconnected typically from what it is that we want, being so dutiful and responsible and all of that stuff. So the way you're rolling out your story, it's such a beautiful thing. Now, do you think when I got laid off,
Uh,
I was 50.
uh,
It was that year, and I had never given my pension any thought. I
uh,
had never booked an appointment. I had no clue what was going on. I didn't understand any of the terminology. I just didn't have any interest or what I thought was a need. And then I get laid off, big surprise. And I
uh,
had to start thinking about it and making decisions. And I was kind of floored and I felt a little embarrassed that at 50, I didn't know a thing. My ignorance was huge. So do you think you would have booked that appointment with your financial person if you weren't aggravated or a little uncertain about pursuing,
I, I,
continuing on?
I think not. I think
Hmm.
if it had, I think I would have just kept going. I just would have kept going.
Right. So
And
you didn't even, can you imagine not knowing that that golden opportunity was waiting for you?
no, right? When we went in and she said that, it was just like, wow. And like you're saying, you're embarrassed, right? You're
I
embarrassed
was.
because
Yeah.
you think, why didn't I check into this before? Why didn't I look at how much money I was accruing? Why didn't I think this was even a possibility?
What do
And
you
now
think the main reason for that was?
like I said, I just think, I was rolling along. I was,
Yeah.
relatively happy. I had these things I did on the side that kept me busy, the dogs and the dancing and I was okay with it and I just kept doing it.
Yeah, we're just so not used to dreaming.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just
Exactly.
so not good at that at our age when we're born, like where we came from in the 70s and
Yes.
all of that stuff. It's just so different. Okay, so now you've got the good news. How much notice did you give?
A month. We gave a month's notice, and then that was hard too. Not just turning over all the work, but all the relationships that you
Yeah.
have at your that I was there for 31 years, and we actually, when I went there, there was just some woods and a couple construction trailers, and we built that whole facility. And one of the very first things I designed was a cryogenic target system that exceeded expectations and went above and beyond. And so there were a lot of, those kinds of uh, accolades that then you're not going to have anymore, right? Once you give all that up.
Well, you'll have different accolades,
Well,
but you won't
hopefully,
have, yeah,
hopefully,
whether or not you're going to be able to weave the word cryogenic in any conversation. In now, I'm not so sure, but let's talk about that for a second because I was just laughing to myself here. You're now a writer of historical fiction.
yes.
There is no cryogenics. There,
Not,
like, is
no,
there? Am I wrong?
no. You're right. You're right. Not in the ones I've written so far.
Correct. Okay, so we're going to dive into that in just 1 second, but I have one more question. So now you've given notice and you've got 30 days. Had you, did you start to imagine what life on the other side was going to be like at that time, or it was just too busy making the transition?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't know. I didn't imagine at all. I had no plans. It happened pretty, kind of suddenly, and we didn't move. I knew we were going to move. So we lived in Hampton, Virginia, which is near the Chesapeake Bay. We had like a little waterfront property, but my kids had moved to Richmond, which is the capital of the state, and it's in the center of the state. And so I wanted to move to be closer to them. And I also wanted to give up the house and all the yard work and all that kind of thing. And so we moved into a condo. And so I knew we were doing that, but I didn't know other than that what I was going to do with my time or what any of it.
And it's also unusual that you and your husband were on this, on the same path. You both had to figure things out and you were
Yes.
retiring from the same place with the
Yes.
same kinds of friends.
Yes.
And yeah, that's fascinating. Now, I've have talked to lots of people who have noticed, lots of women, that they end up having an easier time than their husbands do because of the friendships and the
Ex-
interests.
Exactly. He had an awful time.
Oh,
It was really, really hard for him, and he went through a lot of anxiety and depression. And I think
oh,
I think men are more the work is them, where
yeah.
the work for me, it was, of course, it was very important, but like I said, I also had these other things that I did, and
Yeah.
he and he didn't. I mean, he golfed on the labs golf league, but he didn't really have a lot of friends outside of work, and so it was harder, much harder for him than for me.
Yeah, it's a pretty common story. I mean, I know that there's always exceptions, but it's just very interesting that your situation was so similar.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the dog dancing is very different than golf. I mean, oh my gosh.
No, the dogs, that's also a group of people that all, and a lot of the Greyhound adopters were in Richmond. So when we moved to Richmond, I had all the Greyhound people were friends of mine. And then I had the dance people. And so I just had a lot of support, I guess, that he didn't have.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm glad you had that. Okay, now When did you get an idea to write historical fiction? Because my goodness, it's so different than what you'd been entertaining yourself with.
So when I was a kid, I always liked to write and do artwork and painting and anyway. So I always liked it. And so, of course, we retired in 2019. And in March of 2020, the world shut down. And so there we were in our little condo with nothing to do and nowhere to go. And so I went online and there were like lots of free courses. And I thought, well, I always liked to write when I was a kid. Like, let me just take one of these free little, you know, like write an outline. And so that's basically how it started. So I took a class with a coach, and she said, started out like writing your outline. Okay, so I had this grand uncle who played baseball, and so I just kind of picked that because it seemed easy to me. That
Okay, I can't imagine that. You're hilarious with what you think is easy.
So my cousin had done the research on my granduncle for like our ancestry kind of things and when we had family reunions. So he played baseball in the 1910s, 1920s, and his life really was stranger than fiction in many ways. He started out working in a coal mine, got seen by some scouts. Then he went to play in Cleveland. So this was all in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh. Went to play for Cleveland. Then World War I happened, and then they sent him off to what he thought, I think, was they were gonna entertain the troops by playing baseball, but of course that didn't happen. They ended up having to fight. And then he got injured. They didn't think he was going to be able to come back and play baseball, but he did. And he ended up playing in the World Series against Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig.
What?
Yes. So this story wrote like, how could you? That is easy, you see?
Wow.
And so he had already done all this research. And then I had this writing coach who was saying, oh, that's a great idea for a story. Like, let's put it in the outline. And so then we outlined it, and then then it was still the pandemic. So she did another online thing that was called Book in 90. And she said, now you're going to take that idea from your outline and you're going to take 90 days and you're going to start writing. And she had like a whole coaching thing of how many words we would write a day. And so I just fell right into it. And at the end of 90, I had a rough draft. And then I hired her to be my writing coach for the rest of the year. And she walked me through how to publish it and get the cover work done and do all those kinds of things. And by December 2020, I was holding the book in my hand.
Wow. Wow. It's another story about COVID being
Yes.
such a weird, dangerous, scary, unusual time of life. And it was also filled with so much possibility for people.
Much opportunities.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and again, I loved having a coach, which also made me think, like you were saying earlier, about I wish I would have had this, not her exactly, but someone that would have said to me back in the day, you should be doing XYZ, that like I've been there and you should do this when you're 42 and you should do this when you're 45. I mean, it wasn't the exact same, but you know what I'm saying, like
Oh, I totally know because I'm a midlife coach and that's what I
yeah,
help people do is figure it out. But I don't tell them what to do, but I can ask great questions to help
yes,
them figure out what it is that they want to do, to find some of the stuff that you did find,
yes,
but you just hadn't considered Uh,
No.
where's retirement going to fit in, and what about this passion for writing? I do a whole exercise that has you looking for moments of joy when
Yeah.
you throughout your life. Not
Yes.
like if you were to write your story, a lot of us start with, oh, well, this hard thing happened and my parents got divorced and I had to leave my best friend when we moved. And like we tend to frame and tell our story by what was difficult. But I ask
Yes.
clients to look for moments of joy and then see what you can learn from those moments of joy. So that little tiny whisper of a memory that you used to like to write
Yes.
was untapped. It
Was
was untapped.
untapped
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those years.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant. It's so much fun to work with a coach. Like you're just lighting up
I
as you were talking about your experience. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. As a listener, if you're hearing that, I'm sorry. I'm flailing about over here. But yeah, you're lighting up about the experience. All of a sudden, you're not alone. You have some mentorship, some guidance, somebody to bounce your ideas off of. I mean, it's great. You move forward. You go from stuck to growing forward, which is
exactly.
very exciting.
Exactly. And I would have never I would have never written that book if it hadn't been for her. So,
Wow, there you go. Now, what was it like for you to finish the book and get it in the mail the first time?
it was really well, I'll say it's a double-edged sword because it
Oh,
was really exciting, but at the same time, um, you're nervous. Like now people are going to read it and people are going to make judgments and that kind of thing. So it was kind of a double-edged sword, but it was really exciting to see it for the first time.
and now that it's been out for a little bit, what's it like for you to see your it's on Amazon, your Amazon page and hear people talking about the book?
It's been great. It's been wonderful, and it also was nominated for an award through the Society for American Baseball Research. And
Wow.
yeah, and
Did you
they
ever imagine that?
well, and I have to always make the disclaimer, I'm not a baseball person. I mean, I can watch a game and but I don't, I'm not that's not my whole thing in life. It just was the story. The story was great to me. So
Yeah.
I like telling the story.
So what has this accomplishment meant for you now that you have it under your belt and you're thinking about the future?
So the future is that now I consider myself a writer and
Wow.
and not a nuclear physics designer anymore. And so when I want to introduce myself now, I say, I'm a writer and I write historical fiction. And working on now my third book, and now I'm with a publisher, so I'm not gonna, yeah, I'm not
Wow.
doing it myself, which has
Wow.
also has I'm still learning. Um,
But
it
how did that happen? Did you pitch or did they find you?
I pitched, and it's a publisher, small press that's here in Richmond, and
Congrats. That's amazing.
so yeah, and so but they go much slower than I did when I did it myself.
Mm.
Because for instance, I've been in the editing process right now and I just finished my third edit and if this was me when the editor has it, I'd be working with the cover designer doing the cover and they do one thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. So it's taken a lot longer than if I had done it myself, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to compare the two processes in the end.
Yeah, that's great because that'll help inform you, what else you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's so fascinating. You've changed your narrative
Mhm.
about who you are and what you're capable of. And your concept of your identity, like what you said was for decades, you were thinking of yourself in one way, you're a sciencey nuclear girl, and now you're a writer, which is
Yes.
it's the arts.
It's the arts, yes. And again, like you were saying, where you want people to think where they get joy. That's from back when I was a kid. That was what gave me joy was writing, painting, um, doing work with crafts and things like that. And that also even extended to my dogs was, that that was a more creative thing that I did that was,
Yes.
to try to, I guess, fulfill a need in me.
Yes. Oh, I'm tickled that you found that. I also have realized how important creativity is for me. And it started out when I was 12 and I did calligraphy. And I was always fascinated with ink and papers and alphabets and letters and all of that. And a few years ago, also during COVID, I became a certified Zentangle teacher. And
Okay,
Zentangle's mindful doodling sounds like you know what it is.
I do.
And I've incorporated it into my group coaching program, the Women in the Middle Happiness Academy, because I feel so strongly about its power when it comes to present moment functioning.
Yes.
And it's just so joyful, and the feedback has been great. And I just needed more fulfillment. And I have made sure that I'm doing things online and I'm buying good supplies and I'm exploring with watercolor and I'm doing all
Oh,
kinds of
great.
stuff now, having a great time.
Great.
It's
Yeah,
so
it,
fun.
it, it is good if you can, I guess, uh, interweave the things. So my next book, this one that I'm working on now, is about a woman artist.
I
So,
was going to guess that. And I was so this complimentary. I have got to move this thing because I'm afraid I'm making a lot of noise with the microphone. I keep bumping into it. I love how you're blending your interests. This is such an important thing for everybody to really think about when you are stuck and trying to put yourself in a box. The
mhm,
box that's not yet created is quite likely a blend of things that you love or transferable skills,
uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
So for you to have the creative insight to blend more, now it's more about what you're interested in, what stories
exactly.
you're interested in telling and being fascinated with. And that's a beautiful evolution. So what's she up to, this woman?
So I told you I live in Central Virginia, but I grew up in Pittsburgh. So I'm lots of times driving back and forth if I'm going to meet family or stuff. So there's a brown sign on the highway, those kind of for attractions, and it said Gary Melcher's home and studio. And I was thinking, who is Gary Melchers? I've never heard of Gary Melchers. And I thought it was like some Civil War person because Virginia's real big with Civil War battlefields and all that kind of stuff, historical sites. And so, but curiosity got the better of me and I stopped one day. And he was an artist, a very famous artist in the from 1900 up to 1930s, same time period as my granduncle Joe Harris. And so I thought, okay, so I took the tour of the little house. And when I toured the house, um, his paintings were all in their studio, but in the house there were six paintings that had been done by his wife.
Oh,
So I was intrigued.
as am I.
They were very technically proficient paintings, very nice paintings. I would say rivaled his. Now he had hundreds of paintings because he was very prolific throughout his life. He painted Teddy Roosevelt. He painted Mark Twain. The Teddy Roosevelt portraits in the Smithsonian. I mean, he was really famous. But then there's her, and her name's Corinne. So I went to the gift shop and I said, "Is there a book about him?" They said no. I said, "Is there a book about her?" No, no book. And I was like, "Okay, that's my next book."
I love that you followed your intuition and that you stopped. See, this
I
is
know.
the opposite of autopilot. You are no longer on autopilot. Back in the day, you would have never stopped.
Exactly. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have.
So, curiosity for the win, my friend. Curiosity is everything.
Yes, exactly. exactly. And you have to feed it when you can't just sit in the house and do crossword puzzles when you're retired.
Exactly. You need more data. I'm always telling this to clients. You need more data because data is something new that you get to interpret. And
Yes.
your interpretation might surprise you. You might love it and lean in and want to learn more like you did. Or
Uh-huh.
you might say, ugh, that's not for me. I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I clicked on it. I'm glad I watched a documentary. But I don't need to know anything else about that. But you need to
Exactly.
know that. You can't just sit at home and not get new inputs.
Yeah. Look, you're doing a little science experiment right there.
Exactly. I love it. So tell us, how can we get a hold of your work? What's your website? I'm sure people are going to want to know more.
So yes, my website is www.joyceamiller.com. And there are links to the books on there. And the new one should be out in the summer 2025. So we're looking May, June probably.
Yeah, so thanks for dating that because, these podcast episodes, once they're out there, they're out there. So you might be listening and it's already out if it's in the future, or
Mhm.
you might have it on your list and need to put it in your calendar because you don't want to miss it. But you'll always see updates on Joyce's website, I'm sure. So start there, joyceamiller.com, a nice, easy name to remember. And of course, I'm going to have your links in the show notes.
Great.
So, if you could give us 3 points that you want to emphasize when people are stuck and don't know what they want to do, or they look at retirement and maybe they feel negative about it instead of positive and open about what's possible.
So one thing is I would say try to find a coach or a mentor. That's one. Two is just show up. I think 90% of doing anything is just showing up and try it and see if it's for you or not. And what would be the third one? Hug your dog.
I love that one. And maybe now I'm motivated to watch more dog dancing, and I'm sure you can find lots of that on YouTube.
Oh, you just yeah, put that in canine freestyle or dog dancing and you'll find more videos than you know what to do with.
Oh, that's super fun. Joyce, it has been a pleasure talking to you. You have really, I think, because we drilled down the way we did, your thought process to turn yourself and become a woman who is an artistic creator versus a scientific physicist, very locked down in the scientific method, part of a big, giant science institution, making really high level contribution. It's a very different kind of contribution that you're making now, equally worthy, very, very different. And you challenged yourself and you were open. And I think that's really the key to being fulfilled in your next chapter.
Thank you, and I agree.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was I just loved meeting you and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for this episode. Such an interesting journey, isn't it? I love how Joyce's career started with such intensity as a mechanical designer in a nuclear physics lab, and then it pivoted to things where she had way more fun. Like, really, aren't you fascinated with dog dancing now? And writing. My goodness, so many midlife gals are curious about becoming a writer later in life. So I just knew that you would, really connect with this episode. There's so many clues here in Joyce's story about her passion throughout her life, including her childhood. So please take that to heart. I've done many episodes about finding and connecting to your passion. One you may want to listen to is episode 343, Finding Midlife Purpose and Passion from Your Childhood Claim to Fame. So good, right? And if you'd like a free download to help you find your passion with clues from your childhood, head over to www.susierosenstein.com/Passion Project 50. Now, I've also interviewed lots of amazing midlife gals who are working on or have figured out this journey too. You can search for them on my website, and I'll also put those episodes in the show notes. I have to say, this is also why so many women reach out to me. Helping you find your passion is also my passion. And I think it's a bit of a superpower for me. If you want some help in this area, either private or group coaching, like in the academy, please reach out. Let's do something about it. You can book your free, no obligation momentum call at www.talktosusie.com. Okay, now let's wrap things up. Remember, if you are not intentional with stuff like this, time will just fly by and you're highly likely to have regrets. I can totally help you stop living like time doesn't matter, because it does. My focus as your regret-proof your life midlife coach is to help you waste less valuable time and get on with the good stuff. Remember, being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be. My friend, it is time to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating the excitement, joy, and fulfillment that you crave. It really is. Now, for show notes and links, go to www.susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 425. You'll also see a link there for my other show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.